The Secret Service is currently tracking a 40% spike in threats against government officials compared to last year. That is 10,000 documented threats swarming the Capitol since the 1st of January. These threats have forced cabinet members to abandon standard car services and alter their daily lives to avoid active Iranian assassination plots. This domestic security panic is unfolding alongside a rise in military casualties overseas, with U.S. troops facing fatal strikes at bases across the Middle East. Politically, the administration is underwater. Presidential net approval ratings have been negative for 482 consecutive days, a streak that began right around March of 2025. The simultaneous rise in domestic threats, overseas casualties, and political disapproval is the tangible outcome of a policy that favors perpetual escalation over a cohesive grand strategy. This strategy is clearly visible in the administration's trade policy. After the Supreme Court threw out the president's initial tariffs, the White House looked for a way to reinstate them without court approval. They found a workaround in Section 338 of the 1930 Tariff Act, bypassing standard investigations to apply immediate economic pressure. This loophole cast a wide net, targeting 60 countries and impacting 99% of all U.S. trade. The application of these laws has been highly erratic, including a threat of massive tariffs against Canada in retaliation for wildfire smoke crossing the border. This indiscriminate approach is hurting the president's own allies. In Brazil, these tariffs have crippled the election chances of Jair Bolsonaro, a key ideological partner for the White House. By placing all imports under threat, the administration trades strategic stability for short-term leverage, destabilizing the global supply chains that domestic commerce depends on. The military application of this strategy is just as aggressive. In Iran, the U.S. has conducted bombing strikes for 12 consecutive nights. Along with the strikes, the administration is threatening to seize frozen Iranian assets to pay for damages to regional shipping. However, the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency have assessed that this daily bombing campaign is failing to change Iran's negotiating position. Iran has adapted to the pressure by moving its ballistic missiles and drone infrastructure deep underground, where surface strikes cannot reach them. Applying force without a diplomatic endgame doesn't weaken an adversary. It forces them to harden their defenses and wait for the bluff to be called. While Iran has adapted its infrastructure for survival, American forces in the region remain highly exposed. This satellite view of a U.S. military outpost shows a heavy reliance on surface-level infrastructure. These unfortified, prefabricated housing units and exposed radar sites are specific weak points that leave soldiers defenseless against precision strikes. The U.S. military has largely ignored the lessons of the last 4 years in Ukraine, where underground defense has become a requirement for survival against drone and missile attacks. Escalating a conflict while leaving frontline personnel in unfortified, static targets creates a fatal liability for the administration. Domestically, the public has rejected these policies. While voters were initially split, 63% of Americans now oppose the new tariffs after seeing their impact on the economy. This rejection at home is the final piece of the collapse, with isolated allies and adapted adversaries and highly vulnerable frontline troops. In a modern, interconnected world, perpetual escalation is not a demonstration of strength. It is a strategic liability that forces the public and the military to pay the price for a lack of a clear plan.